Welcome back. So far, we have covered the structure of the hand and the fingers, the gaps between the fingers, and what type of hands and fingers we have. So, in the last lesson, we covered three videos about the gaps between the fingers, the closed fingers, normal wide opening, and widest opening. So, what they meant. Today, in the structure, we are going to discuss the nails, the condition of the nails, the type of the nails. And hopefully this will conclude the structure part of the hand. So after that, we will go into the individual parts and the palm itself. So now we will be moving more towards the lines and signs and symbols and all that, and the length and the breadth of within the finger and the palm itself, one by one, and then finally we'll look at the all those symbols. But I just want to keep it more structured so that I don't miss anything, or at least our approach in learning is more structured. Anyway, coming back to nails, the nails themselves, they reveal much of a health condition. You can, by looking at nails, you can tell the condition of the health of the person, as well as the nervousness, the psychological condition of the person, the daily stress on his own self. So the color and some lines or any indications on the nail will reveal those. So let's look into all of these one by one. So again, my actually way of teaching you has been that there is a band, there's a far left and there's a far right and there's a middle. So the traits will start from the middle and extend too much on one side and too less on the other side. And that less doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just a different person with different psychology, with different trend, and a different trend there. And then a mixture of both will make a more moderate personality. So if you look at the fingers, if the conditions appear to be, again, like your hand and all that, if they appear to be very nice, very nicely kept, they're beautiful, there are no breaks or there are no lines, their texture, their color, it looks nice to you, then their health is probably the nice health the person has. Especially the condition of the nail is more related to the blood, the pressure of the blood and the condition of the blood. So, and that is directly influenced by the pressure or psychological pressures or depressions or, those kind of things that you may have on a daily basis. So, so a person who goes through a very normal, happy life has nothing to worry about, especially in these days. It doesn't apply on future or the past. It only applies on the present. So when you look at the nail, you are looking at the last few months, or maybe, few months is okay. So you can't predict future from there unless you really see something very bad happening on the nails. But it's more likely you are looking at a person who is sitting in front of you, offering hand to read. So you look at the nails, and they look perfectly happy, nice, smooth, beautiful, nicely done, very nicely kept. The pink color, really pink color, like normal blood and beautiful pink coming out. And there are no lines or scratches or anything. The person has no worries at least the person doesn't take any pressure. I mean, if nobody can be free of pressures, but sometimes people take more pressures, like water signs, for example, in astrology. They Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. The three signs are emotional signs. They're ruled by somehow the moon and the Mars and all that. The water itself is ruled by the moon. So so emotionality is part of those people. So the emotion of cancer are more like domesticated, more like around the family and dear ones, whereas scorpions are more like more like into the world, into more practicality and things that happen around them in that matter. And the Pisces are naturally, they are more like intuitive, they are more inward, and they are always worried, and they keep themselves close. Especially Cancer, being sensitive, expresses. Scorpios hardly express. Pisces, it will be very rare that they will express. They are more like they keep things inside, and they, so that builds up a pressure. When that builds up a pressure, I'm not saying that if the nails show the pressure or discolorization or anything, that they are the Pisces or the Scorpio or the Cancer. But what I'm saying is, when you keep, some people have the tendency of keeping more emotions inside. So, thus carrying the depression or carrying the pressure within their brain and the soul and the body with them, it will show up on your nails. So, nails will reveal if this person is going through some kind of a stress. So, when you're looking at the line, you're looking at the fingers, the structure of the hand, if a person is intuitive and taking a pressure. If a person is a more practical hand, which is a square hand, is more is taking the pressure, or a person who is more industrious, who is more entrepreneur and is going out, is taking the pressure. So there are three different kind of pressures for three different kind of personalities, but nonetheless it will show up in your fingers. So broken fingers, broken nails, you will see them. Usually if you dip you're doing something, and your nails are easily breaking off, they are tearing off, or they are too you cut them, they don't cut nicely, they are not strong enough so that you can actually file them properly, and sand them properly and clean them, because you see that if you do that, they don't come up. So these are like unhealthy nails. So the color itself adds to it. If it's more dark, it's more pinkish, it will all add up, and it will reveal that you have some kind of a nervous system. Maybe your blood flow is not good, or maybe you're having an external influence on you, something that is putting a pressure on your psychological system, or your physical body system, or anything else in there. So let's discuss one at a time. So, if you start to see the lines, little tiny lines, sometimes they are very smooth, little, you hardly see them. Sometimes they become really prominent. I don't know. I have very little ones. Sometimes they become more. Sometimes they're gone. Like in a week or two or three. So this will be like that. So when you look at them, you just make sure that these are only related to today, or maybe previous few weeks or months, maybe, if you want to go that far. So as soon as these lines, they're like tiny lines, vertical lines, they start to appear, that shows the pressure on the blood system. Your circulatory system is under pressure. Maybe because maybe you have a blood pressure that need to be checked, or maybe you're a borderline, or you're you have a higher blood pressure, or you're a borderline blood pressure, or you're developing a blood pressure, or maybe some artery is need to be seen, that you may have a cholesterol situation. So it's mostly related to your circulation system, as well as your defense system. The resistance in your body to tackle the external influences, such as food, or ideas, or the pressures that people take. So your systems will handle that. So when they become weak, your nervous system becomes weak, your body defense system becomes weak, then you will start to see these come up as an external condition on your body. Even like eczema, for example, when people are nervous and they have a pressure, they develop some kind of eczema, like maybe a skin rash or something like that. Same is true about fingernails. So a normal hand will be a normal hand with no lines or anything, is a normal happy person who is living happily. The person who starts to develop those lines is the person with a lot of pressure on himself, health-wise. So that person needs to be checked. Ask the person, what pressure he's having. Food is okay. He's eating properly, sleeping properly, and taking care of walking, doing some exercise or that kind of a thing. And then you will find that person may not be, is too busy doing work, or is too busy with family or something, and he's not taking care of his health. Then you can tell him, or her that, okay, you need to pay attention to this one. So that's one development that you are seeing in the lines that are happening, developing on your fingernails. So as these lines start to appear, the general health will also be indicative of, some malfunction or some, occurring problem. So a person may become, a little more upset easily getting upset, or being very temperamental, feeling uneasy at all times. So you'll see some kind of a nervousness about the person himself. So one of the problem is that sometimes you see that the meat itself, it goes over, and then nail getting inside the mine is like just the nail itself is finishing where the meat is finishing. But just like this one here, if nail is here entering, you'll see that nail is a little deep, and then meat goes up in the front, and you see the nail getting inside. So in other words, the nail is trapped within all four sides, like an island, within the meat. It's like it's fixed inside like a diamond in a ring. So so the nail will be here. You see it's on three sides, but on fourth side it's open. It just grows. If the nail grows, it grows over the meat. But here in some nails that you will see that the nail is in front of the nail. There's meat, so the nail will grow inside inside the flesh itself. So that's a very bad indication of health. This is really a poor health, sign of poor health. Psychological depressions, being upset, being nervous all the time, not being able to control one's emotions or anger or anything. This is really a bad sign of health. So they should get their health checked, especially if they have lines coming up and their decolorization, they're getting too dark or too white or too dark. It's not really nice pink. Then, especially with those kind of, ingrowing nails, you got to have this person check this health. At least, if not, then at least make a decision on that based upon those fingernails. Look at the rest of the hand and see how the person is taking it. Is it, let's say, if you're seeing a line on the heart line or lifeline, some health issue coming up, and then you see nails, so it's a second testimony toward the health. So like in one of the beginning videos that I said, whenever you make a judgment, try to see if it's isolated issue, or is it reoccurring, or it is a permanent issue. The permanent issue or reoccurring issues must have a testimony, more than one or two or three testimonies. Like, it should appear from different hands that if a person is nervous or is having heart issues, for example, emotionality issues, and then it will show up on the heart line. It will also show up on the lifeline. It will also show up on your brain line to some extent. There will be some indication more or less on each of the, including your fingers, finger types, structure of the hand, and your nail. These are so many testimonies pointing to the same thing. Now, if you see that kind of thing where it's being pointed, then it's a problem. You need to look into it and see, and then need to talk to the person, the person, your client, or whoever you're looking at their hand. So make sure they don't have that kind of an issue. If they do, look into it. Why they're having stress. If the person want to marry someone and can't marry, or a person has a degree but can't find a job, or some other issue, something is bothering them, something is happening with them all the time. So you need to look into it. So a person who has strong, when you press, the nails are not soft, but strong, sturdy, more, kind of, you feel the strength. You don't feel that, they're like, like if I press here, it's meat. So meat will, feel softer. So if you feel that your nails or the nails of your person are soft, they are like easily, when like pressing and they're bent, then it's a health issue. But if you feel them very strong, they are very sturdy, very strong, then this person is really inside, the real health is really good. It's a person is strong and can deal with, physically about the health issue. So again, such nails, the strong nails will be only in a hand, like a lever hand or a square hand or a flat hand. So those, even sometimes flat hands, in one of the very beginning videos I said, sometimes you have a flat hand, but those flat hands are nervous hands, and then you see people biting them up, all the time. You see they chew on their fingernails. That's also an indication of nervous personality, that they keep on chewing on there. So by looking at them, you'll see that, they never use nail cutter. They just use their teeth to and they are very abruptly, painfully. Sometimes people are bleeding, like an extreme condition is that they actually, when they bite, they are actually bleeding. Somehow they like it. They're just used to it, maybe, they're so into it. So you look at it will actually reveal how much issue they have in the sense of stress and health issues. Now, just like the size of the hand, size of the finger, nails are also of 4 kinds: normal, long, short, wide, and narrow. So the types are 3, but then within that they expand. So if there could be, so it's like normal is the one between long and the short. So if you see them short, that's one. If you see them long, that's another. And the width. So the opposite of the width also is like they are very narrow. So you need to look at that, all 4 of them, what kind of nail are those, beside the condition of the nail. We discussed that, the smooth, straight fingers, they don't argue, they just accept things, they get influenced, whatever you tell them, they will accept that. And same was true about the gap. Now, if you have a nail which seems, this part, nail, actually not nail, but also not only nail, but the first portion together, because always remember, when you are measuring a size, it is always a relevant study. Never ever, first is impression, the way you look and say, oh, you know what, it looks big or small. That's the first impression. Then you have to see if they are bigger or smaller as compared to other. What is the norm? Like norm is that both are approaching at the same time, about the size of these fingers. So this is the normal size. But now if you see this one growing up and coming to the top, then this is tall. So and it does not mean that it's small, it's just this tall, but this is not small. This is normal size. So same way, when you're looking at your nail, so nail appears to be tall, grown, big, not big in a size like wide or anything, but they're actually nicely taller than. These kind of people will accept influence very easily. They just accept whatever comes to them. They they will conform to the situation, and that's how they will do it. These are sensitive people. They take external influence easily. So and naturally, the sensitivity itself will says that what, if they are taking influence, they are also taking some kind of a pressure, because influence is the one that they will be creating stress upon themselves. So lack of confidence, um, the not being too practical, and taking the stress and influence. So that's the kind of people with a longer lane of, I'm sorry, no, nail. So it's getting a little longer, so I'm going to wrap up quickly so that because it's only now interpretation, because I have already discussed the conditions. The next type are the nails, which are smaller, much smaller. You will see if they are not dug into the nail, like I was discussing about, the bad health thing, where the nail ends up in the meat. But they are small, but they appear to be as if they are like planted on your fingertip. So they're like small, not wide, but they look small. They're smaller than they should have. They should look on. So you will immediately notice that these, they are like, there's more meat around, but they are independently like a normal nail, but they are smaller, much smaller. And if they are just like stuck on the finger itself, you must have seen them, and now you will notice them anyway. They're kind of, the same personality as being a nod hand and nod finger. They are critical people. They don't take influence so easily. They take anything that pressurizes them. They take it and conclude it with their own logic. They actually pay attention and think over it. And so they are not like, you can't throw anything on them. They will just take it and first analyze, just like the knot hand and knot fingers. These are very cautious people. They analyze everything. They could be a great critics of art and literature or anything. They think about, they have a full study about things that they do or that come across with them. So they are not so they are not so they are always critical, and so they are always indulging into argument with you. They will always discuss. You say something, and they will just say, "Okay, what are you doing this, and why are you doing that?" Again, the size itself. Even if they are tiny, look, they're too tiny, or too they look tiny, but not as tiny. So you have to look at that condition to actually say how much critic, how strong critic, or how critical they are, how argumentative they are. So they are short-tempered as well, because they like to pick on things, and they like to do things that are that they do not accept, because they need to process it, and in their processes, in the process, they have it doesn't fit in, and they can actually separate the milk with the water. So because these people, they take they take pressure, stress. So small nails are not good health wise, because they always take stress. They are always worried about something. So you need to look at them as well. So you have to make sure that their general health condition by look at, because when you're looking at hand, you're looking at a person, unless you're looking at a print. But print will also show you the health condition itself, being too skinny, too meaty, or those kind of indications. If it's it's like a practical hand or intuitive hand or a lazy hand or whatever. So these people are prone to small nails. They are prone to the heart conditions. So always check their heart line. Ask them about if they are suffering from any blood pressure or anything. If they do, and their nails are really tiny, they need to constantly have them check themselves, so that they can avoid any serious consequences due to their stress level. On the other hand, wide, they're like big, wide. They're tall, big, wide. They're not just tall. Tall is like, more rectangular shape. But these are like kind of a rectangular, maybe more square, but they look big. They are actually, you can feel that those nails are really big. That like in width, like a very wide hand or like that. Is that just a square nail is placed on the top of the finger. These are tough people, very strong people in personality. They are also aggressive, because because of the strength that they have. You will find them very aggressive at times. They like to make fuss over everything. They like to exaggerate. They like to highlight things that are not really required, but it's just a tendency to get maybe kind of, depending upon the size of the nail, maybe bully, the right. So if it's too big, really a big nail, you can tell by just looking, it's a big nail, then probably they are tough guys and bullies. Such people are like, they are always like, there's no modesty about them. They're always like bragging and saying things. And because of that, people may think they are liars. They will not believe them because they talk too much. They say too many things, unrelated things, and just to win over the situation at the time. And at the present time, when they are in an argument, they are trying to pressurize the other person with the argument, or in a discussion. So they are trying to win over. So they will unnecessarily go out to impress others. So others are, they take a step back because they're trying to avoid the situation. But at the same time, they're feeling, this person is too much, again, that kind of, but it has to be normal big or too big. So you have to make sure, that when you come up with this analysis, you have to make sure how big are those. So people with the big, they're usually is not as bad, but as compared to the small, they're like they take it on heart. But this person, because he's just dumping everything that comes to his mind, so he's not as emotional or as so health-wise strong. Big nails indicate good health, and the person doesn't take any pressure, doesn't care much. Like pointed fingers, when they go, and then we had narrow hands and narrow fingers. All three qualities together, not just pointed. Don't take one word on the other because I said that. All three has to match together. So now you have fingernails that are like literally a very thin oval shape. Just like very narrow. Looking at, they're not tall, but because they're so narrow, they appear to be tall. So you have to again, remember that. So the key word is being narrow, not tall. They will be appearing as tall because they are narrow. So the condition is narrow. These people are kind of, in some sense, are kind of has the properties or qualities of a intuitive hand. Not all the way, because intuitive is also a very positive intuition, because they are more like into spiritual levels, and they are more like into being isolated because they want to think, and those kind of, or maybe they are writer if they have a little bit of square hand, or maybe a wide finger somewhere. So pointed hand with the square fingers or flat fingers will maybe turn out to be a writer, for example. So the thin, narrow nails. they are not very courageous people. They try to hold back. They are like backbenchers. They do not volunteer. They do not go. They are not outward. They are more inward. They tend to be. They tend to be isolating themselves from anything that exposes them into the open. And the narrow hands may also have, not narrow hands, but narrow nails. They're not too tall, but they're narrow. They may have some bone issues, particularly a back problem issue. So it's not set in the rule, but it's just an indication. Again, the condition of the nail itself will reveal that. But these are not the final. It all depends. Nails, the condition of the nails, it may point to a temperament, a condition, a person, how what he does to himself. And if we continue again, if you see an indication, if indication keeps there, like if a person has a blood issue, like a blood pressure, for example, and it continues, then obviously it's going to show up on your fingers. So we are actually looking at what kind of a person this hand belongs to, and what kind of pressure person is taking, and what is appearing on his hand and nail and the fingers and the face, all these together. So don't judge the person from just the nail because of the condition. You look at it, and because it's your judgment, you are looking at it. Maybe your experience is not enough, and you haven't seen enough of nails or fingers, types of fingers, or total hand. So you don't say, okay, jump on conclusion. You are going to have a heart attack, unless you have 3 or 4 or 5 indications. You can say, okay, you know what? And I have seen, I have looked at people's face. I had a coworker. I looked at his face. I said, you have a blood pressure? He said, yes. How do you know? I said, your face is telling me. And I told him, the color of the face, it tells me that you are about to have your heart problem. Even though I knew that he's going to have a heart attack, but I said, you know what? You have an issue. So go and get your heart checked, because I don't think you have insurance. Why don't you just go and get your heart checked? You know what? He ended up in having a bypass. So it will reveal on your face, on your hands, on your neck, but don't because the nails don't change. The condition may change, but the size itself, being wide or big or small, they don't change. They're part of your nature. So don't be very judgmental because if somebody has a big nail, but big nail what does it mean? Then you have to go with the color, the lines, the conditions, the biting of it, the cut of it, the texture, the strength itself. After seeing all these things plus the lines, then you make a judgment. So you have to be very careful before you jump on conclusions. So these are the very visual things that I discuss about the hand. There's nothing futuristic or forecasting or fortune telling or anything. It's just pure science based upon observation of thousands of years. I have not said anything that I created myself. Whatever I read, I all presented to you from different sources. I put it together and say, okay, this is my experience. This is what I have learned, and I'm sharing it with you. So again, I keep saying, even though after you look at a lot of hands and nails and all that, slowly and gradually we will understand that, okay, what kind of hand, what kind of shape, what kind of color, and then you will start to average them. And as soon as you average them, you will get really, really good at it. Okay, so you don't have to then go, but just looking hey, like this person, we are having a break. I say, you know what, do you have a issue with the blood? And they say, well, I have a little bit of blood pressure. I say, you know what, it's not a little bit, probably you're having a bigger problem. So go get yourself checked. He did, and they found out that he has a blocked artery, so he needed a bypass. Yeah. So It happened timely, and he was okay, fine. He got himself treated. All right, so please, making a judgment, make sure that you are sure what you're saying, and it actually conforms with everything else, and it is tested. You have more testimonies. So now we finish the structure of the hand, and then we go into the then in next lesson we go into each one of them, the finger and the parts and the palm itself, and then we go into lines and the symbols and etc. I'll see you next video. Take care of yourself.